right, I think it's a good time for us to start now. Good afternoon, everybody, once again, just for those that are just joining us. And welcome again to the 9th lecture in the founder series of the Kunle Hassan Foundation Academy, where today we'll be talking, Dr. Hassan will be talking to us about building and maintaining the future of eye care in the post-COVID pandemic environment. Just before we get started, I will just reiterate some of the house rules. We kindly ask all participants to keep their videos off and their microphones muted throughout the presentation. At this point, I would just like to invite Dr. Harriman, the director of the Kunle Hassan Foundation Academy, for a brief introduction of the speaker, following which we will have the presentation from the speaker, Dr. Kunle Hassan. As well as a follow-up interactive question and answer session after his presentation. We ask that you put all your comments, feedback, and questions in the chat box, and this will be picked up and addressed during the interactive session. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us again. Dr. Harriman, over to you. Dr. Harriman. So I think we might have, I think Dr. Harriman might be having connection issues. She was here earlier. While we're waiting for her, let's control it. All right, great, thank you.
Yes. Hi, so sorry. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this afternoon. This 9th lecture in the Founder Series of Building and Maintaining a Sustainable Eye Care Institution in Sub-Saharan Africa is being given, as mentioned, by Dr. Kunle Hassan, who is the founder and chief medical director of the Eye Foundation Hospital Groups. He has, over the 50 years plus of his career, held notable leadership positions in the International Council of Ophthalmology, the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness, the African Ophthalmological Council, the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria, and outside ophthalmology in the corporate world, including Diamond Bank, now Access Bank. He is currently the chairman of Health Partners Limited, Deseret International Hospital Limited, Leahon Economic Development Foundation, a microfinance organization, and is also the chairman, the board of management, Onobisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital. Through the institutions Dr. Hassan has founded, very high standards for quality eye care and public-private partnerships for eye care in Nigeria have been set. And through the Eye Foundation Hospital Group, he has created a robust and sustainable infrastructure to drive his vision to eliminate avoidable blindness in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa. We have all in one way or the other been affected by the COVID pandemic. Today's lecture is to give us a glimpse into the future of eye care in a post-COVID environment. Good afternoon, Dr. Hassan, and we welcome you to this 9th webinar in the Founder Series. And thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Harriman, for your kind words and introduction. I also would like to welcome everybody who has created time to be here today to rub minds together and see how best we can navigate through the evolving challenges in our profession and also in the eye care industry. Looking at things generally, to some of the institutions, things are not too bad in the sense that the COVID period precipitated a situation whereby people look inwards to get to access service with regards to eye care. those who have a very high disposable income or in position opportunity to have insurance and a lot of strength outside the country, even before, do go out for simple things like pterygium, changing their glasses and things like that. But the COVID period created an inward-looking environment, and that has helped in many ways with institutions with a good standard to be able to sustain their business and probably perform better in terms of income generation. However, things are opening up now. Those that were not well positioned during the COVID period have suffered considerable loss, or they have repositioned themselves to look somewhere else for sustainability. Now that things are getting much better, things are opening up. Flights and international relationships are being redefined, and one way or the other, it's going to affect us. So the key things there is the changes that we are going to experience with the world opening up again. And these changes call for an increase in looking inwards urgently. And because the key thing that will happen, and we should be aware of, is competition. Competition will be speed up, and it's going to be very crucial to the survival of the fittest. Hence, we need to review our methods used by managers or leaders to transform individual institutions to stronger competitors. So with competition and race for survival, some of this competition will come locally. People will regroup. As some who have been in a position to do well during this COVID crisis and has been financially prudent, will try to evolve to get to higher heights by the increase, by changing and accepting technological innovations to upgrade the service they provide for the community. However, the most important to note is the competition that will arise from organizations with external input. We have both in the industry, not just in the eye care, also in the healthcare. There's increased involvement of investors, institutional investors in the industry. You can see the Evercare being opened. You can see the new Dorset Hospital, which is a collaboration between local investors and outside investors. But most of it is really influenced by the external institutional investors. Institutional investors are not here to play. They might play an impact in terms of social impacts and try to make things a little bit better, that access can be guaranteed. But the availability of that access to the less fortunate, or rather the less privileged, is capped because they're here to make profit and there's an exit strategy. However, with what is happening in Nigeria at the moment, one of the key things is the foreign exchange risk. A lot of the ophthalmic consumables are foreign based, even to the level of the drugs we use. Those companies that have external investors or part of a conglomerate definitely will have the comfort of the parent company. The parent company can afford to send them consumable drugs, equipment from outside world. Hence, the resources they can generate locally, they will use that to expand, to increase the ability to attract human resources from other institutions that are struggling. So at the end of the day, they might be the key drivers of competition because they have the fund, a heavy foreign fund support behind them. So the need to use the local money and transfer it back is not there. So they can use that to create a local growth at a phenomenal rate and therefore increase the percentage of their presence in the market and play a game of economy of scale. At the end of the day, situation will change or might change, which we all hope for. They'll be able to recoup and be in a better position to add value to the balance sheet of their parent companies, which is outside the country. So any situation is a win-win situation for them. The losers will be the local professionals, the local single practice and multi-practices that cannot compete in that environment. The question is, how do we respond to that? Do you just give up and hope that maybe things will change? Once an organization has a high competitive edge in the market, that organization will only struggle to be at that top. And the parameters required are in their favor. Whereas the organization that unfortunately lose their position within a hierarchy of that competition step will probably be draw down, because if you don't adjust rapidly, it might lead to the demise of that organization, whereby it's no more viable. So what do we do? Well, we have to look within. We have to streamline things. We have to look at total quality management. We have to think of re-engineering, right sizing for the organization if it's need, to downsize or to restructure, and also look at need a cultural change to turn around that fortune. So most important, critical need is for leadership to take necessary step and make the change to happen so that we can reposition an organization to compete favorably without losing grip of where we're going. So in terms of this, we have to see how we can economically empower ourselves. It is true that the central bank did mention that they're focusing provision of loan for the healthcare industry. I'm yet to see one eye care industry that got anything at about 6.5 billion that the central bank governor did mention at the opening of the Deutsche Bank that's been given to the healthcare institutions. I know that institutions like Babcock got, I think, about $1 billion, Deutsche and some other institutions. But I don't think there's any in the eye care industry. The tendency is to put money where the turnover is high and the profit margin is high. And you see this more in the drug industry. But how can we position ourselves so that we can tap into this field? There's a lot of companies now in the pharmaceutical industry who are managing the drug supply to institutions. And because they have the ability to buy volume, they're able to sell at reasonable prices or take over the pharmaceutical part of the hospital and leaving a reasonable profit margin for an institution. It might be a way to survive if we don't have access to foreign exchange, whereby they take over the importation of those drugs. The other way we can do is through the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria. If we really have leadership with good business acumen, or even if we don't have it within the executive, if they can have a pool of some of the ophthalmologists across the board, the young ones and the old ones, and create a situation whereby they can collectively, as ophthalmology, tap into that sort of resources, they will have a very good bargaining power. And that will enable them to either have a direct sales agreement with most of these pharmaceutical companies and companies providing consumables and even equipment in order to reduce the pressure of having to look for foreign exchange and also spreading the payment terms of those equipments and helping to overcome the barrier being created by the banks in terms of high interest rates, which makes things more difficult. So we have to look at how we can change things, how we can tilt things towards our advantage. And one of the important things to raise the urgency level within the institutions so that people might know that there's a crisis. We are sometimes so complacent that we always think that things will work out well. Therefore, we downplay the dangers being posed by these factors that can undermine the survival of our institutions. So we need to create crisis, raise the level of urgency of that crisis by allowing the ophthalmologists themselves, or the managers running the institution, to be able to see the financial loss that can occur within a short time if things just take a change for the worse. If you're unable to get your drugs in, you're unable to get your consumables to perform the surgery in, you're unable to turn over things one by one, you will discover that your patient will migrate to where they can get those services. So we need to really, within the system, expose the managers to these major weaknesses vis-a-vis competitors. And we must allow errors to blow up instead of being corrected at the last minute. The moment we identify those issues in the system, monitoring what we have, and we know that there can be a gap between replenishing what we have in order to meet our needs, we must raise an alarm to that effect. We must start setting revenue, income, productivity, and customer satisfaction, and a cycle time target so high will raise the bar. Because a lot of staffs, the managers, even the low-level staffs, have this sort of belief because the management is stretching to meet their needs, they're stretching to pay salary, they're making sure things are, they sometimes believe that all is well. And all is not well. Because in your bid to ensure that you don't precipitate a crisis, you see that a lot of things do happen. Where the incomes come to sustain those groups, you discover that as you're spending those money, you are not putting something back into escrow account that can buffer the system. And even if you put something in escrow account that can buffer the system, if that escrow account is not maintained by surplus being generated from turning around your business, the escrow account is going to be empty, and before you know, the institution will be in crisis. It comes to a level that you cannot give what you don't have. However, you can look at the barriers to empowerment of your people. There's some employees that understand your vision, they want to make it a reality, but they are boxed in. Even they can have fantastic idea, but they are boxed in. And what boxes them in is because you have a formal structure that makes it difficult to act, then they cannot think independently. And the most important part of it is the manager. You look at the managers. Sometimes the managers micromanage so much that they kill the initiatives of the staff that they're managing by creating a very strict structure among them that make it difficult for them to act. Sometimes they are discouraged by the actions taken to implement the new vision being defined or shifting the institution line mindset to a new one. Sometimes they lack the skill, and the managers are not looking into training and building a team, because some of the managers might think that I can do it, I am the boss, I can give this, but sometimes it's not, because you can be in the office and see everything. The people that's on the ground are the one that really feel the impact. So there's a need for interaction and even impacting some of your managerial skill and get a feedback from those employees that are there doing the job. Another important things that sometimes box those employees that are ready to do a lot in is the personal and information system that make it difficult for them to act. And that's why you need very mature people to handle your HR. Leakages within the system. While people are still putting ideas that will evolve and change the whole system. If you have very weak human resources or managers that will leak those things at different levels, both at managerial and executive level, it's likely to affect the employees who have the capacity to share your vision when they see that they cannot trust those people you've put in place to make effective changes. So there's need for us to look at corporate culture. And that corporate culture in healthcare institution requires that employees respond quickly to customer requests. Managers involve lower level employees in decision making. Managers work at least extra hours after close each day to review situations and have checklists to be able to dictate whether we're making progress and know the impact and where the impact is coming from before going home. Sometimes you leave, if you don't create that one extra hour to review situations when you have all the data in, and you procrastinate of doing it the following day, you may not be able to do that, and you may lose the drive and the potential to achieve that. So the managers themselves must take the lead in caring for customers, to talk to them, to empathize with them, and to ensure that they believe in the institution, that even during difficult times, they will still be with you. And once they're with you, they will be a good influencer in getting friends and other people to use your facilities. So, the managers and the employees must be concerned more with quality than quantity. If an institution can sustain during this period, providing quality service and targeting the people who can afford, you probably get good patronage to keep alone. And knowing that the competitors that you're going to deal with have a lot of international muscles. So you too must create a strength to be able to play in that market, whereby you can explore the opportunity of direct sales, an ability to build a credibility that will maintain the flow of all the consumables and equipments that you need to compete with the big guys. Having said that, one of the things common in Nigeria, as I mentioned, that could affect our response to this change is complacency. Thinking that we're there, or we can make it, we don't have to change. So as I did mention earlier, the absence of a major and visible crisis make people to feel comfortable and relax in their comfort zone. So we must always escalate that urgency within the system that people can see the coming crisis, and that will put them on the guard. When they know their means of livelihood is threatened, And they know that sometimes the top managers, there's too much happy thoughts. They talk as we are doing fine. They're presenting a very good picture, which sometimes to reflect their own productivity as if they are doing well. People often look at revenue, but nobody's looking at the expenditures. And sometimes we allow the employees, the managers, too much to believe that there are too many feasible resources. Oh, don't worry. We've been surviving it. Those at the top, either the investors or the shareholders, they will always get the fund or the means to keep our business going. So we must not let them feel that there are too many feasible resources that can sustain them. Because nothing is free. Somebody is making the sacrifice. So it's time that
Sorry, you're muted, sir.
I hope it's not for long. So, what's up? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I hear you, sir.
Okay. So I was talking about too many feasible resources. We assume that the shareholders or the top management can always react and provide what we need for the organization. So it's time we making sure that our staffs do understand that such resources is no more there. Because somebody is bearing the bond and it can't. And if an organization cannot depend on the resources they generate themselves and thinking of comfort from shareholders or other source of funding, that we can always get funding to beef up the system, that mindset should be erased. And we should always, it's human nature with its capacity for denial, especially when people are busy or stressed, we are working hard and all this thing. Are they working smart? From the top to bottom, are they working smart? Is their work translating to positive impact in terms of return on investment? Sometimes until when everybody see that their source of livelihood, which is their income, is threatened, it is then it seems to feel the impact for need for change. But by the time that comes into play, there'll be a lot of damage. And we should always know that people can leave the organization. The time for long-term loyalty seems to be fading. So the victims, after all, will be those who are the main investors or their livelihood or put a lot into that organization. So people should start categorizing themselves. People should start seeing the risk of failing of an organization, the impact of failing of an organization on their own life and their future. So everybody must see the institution as a sacred thing that must be preserved. If that mindset is there, then everybody will focus on each of the business units and ensure that we're running a productive and efficient system. These are the things that we need in terms of changing the management style, in terms of taking stocks and ensuring that we're on the positive side of the equation. Another thing that this pandemic has created is the idea of working at home, especially among the administrations and all. And even in medicine, we're talking of telemedicine and all these things. So employees are not looking at being flexible anymore. They're looking at having an autonomy. They're looking at working independent of the system. Because they've done it at home, those who are faithful have had a positive impact on the organization return on investment of the organization. But some have not been faithful. Some have used the time to foster their own business at the expense of the organization. So all this is very important. But the reality is in healthcare, especially in eye care industry, those guys that are the clinical part of the business cannot work from home. They have to be out there. And I think what we've done that has helped us in Eye Foundation is the fact that even during the pandemic, we put all things in place to protect us, ourselves, and protect all our patients. And that gave them confidence in our whole institution. But if you look at the managers, if you look at other administrative people we prepare to leave because they've discovered that they can do better working at home, manage their time, and probably want that autonomy. So in redefining her post-COVID position, we have to study, do an audit of the management section of the institutions, unit by unit, and define their individual and collective scores in terms of impact on the business. If we can do a good assessment, it will help in restructuring and engineering the new management skill and focus that is necessary to manage this post-COVID pandemic. We may not even require as much in terms of more management staff or having a full staff. We may think of the idea of having people on part-time or even outsourcing some of this and what will be the benefit. And concentrate also more on the clinical part. That is essential. The other area we must look at is the customer service area. How do we have that corporate culture that we always create customer delight and satisfaction for patients? So looking at all these that is necessary that we should put in place in order for us to survive. So developing a vision and strategy to put ourselves in a position that will enable us to wave the tide of attrition where a lot of people are leaving the system and focusing on the health care personnel that are also leaving the system en masse in Nigeria and leaving us with those who have no choice but to stay within the system. But everybody has a choice. But we always take the choice that is most beneficial, this choice that we can handle. So there might be post-COVID a very strong shift in terms of the relationship within the hierarchy of the medical personnel. You may have to see the consultants doing more of what they would delegate to their residents or to their fellows, because most of these fellows or residents are migrating out of the country. So there might be that need for the consultant to see how best they can manage their clinical time and their administrative time, and how best they can handle their patients. And that's why I'm one of the people that really support the idea that consultants at a level should have a medical secretary, especially a medical secretary with knowledge, not just administrative secretary, with knowledge, a bit of knowledge in eye care. A medical secretary can be an MLOP, which can bring up to your level, can be an ophthalmic nurse, can be anybody that has exposure to eye care. And therefore, that person can monitor your clinics, can monitor contact with your patients. People can have access to, and they can help you to organize your life. They may not be perfect, but if you see you're ready to invest time in teaching them and giving them a standard of what you expect, you might see that they can turn out to be your greatest assets. And they will be able to handle a lot of things that the consultants are spending time on. And we should also upscale in eye care industry the idea of post-COVID. What has been preached many times, that we should have a team. The optometrists are going to live in a big way everywhere they're looking for. Everybody's gonna. In those days, we were asked to train refractionists. The optometrists resisted it. The ophthalmic nurses resisted. There's no better time, this post-COVID, that we should now look into empowering the lower people within the ophthalmic team. Train refractionists, train people for specific tasks, and give them the right skill and training, and they will perform. So we have to start thinking outside the box, even without the box. And now we can streamline and still maintain an efficient service. So the role of a consultant is calling more for a supervisory role. Not just that you enter your clinic, okay, I want this patient, so, I go to theater, my patient's ready. We have to become more involved. We have to pick a team that we can train. The gap being created by those residents, optometrists, we have to see how we can use those who are available, who are not leaving the country, how we can use them to train them, and also how we can scale up their responsibilities so that those that are below can fill that gap. And we can maintain a balance and still keep the quality of service that's being provided. So these are the new ways of thinking that is very essential for us to look into the future, that we utilize all what we have to keep afloat and not compromise the quality of our service to our patients. If we can do this, as we shrink in terms of human resources, as we shrink and people become more polyvalent, both from the top to the bottom, we probably will have a better revenue employee ratio that might transform into a better compensation for those who desire to remain within the system. If I'm going to leave this country to earn about 3,000 pounds as a young ophthalmologist, that's translates to about 2 point something, maybe 2.5 million in Nigeria. But if I'm in Nigeria, I'm only earning 750,000 naira. the gap is much. Definitely, it's likely I'll move out. Even if I know that when I get there, my standard of living will fall, my aspiration might not be as big. I might be thinking that my children will get that in future. But if the system here can be streamlined, there can be a restructuring and pulling the resources in such a way that you generate a good return on investment, you can start thinking of accommodating those people and compensations that will be parallel to what they will get abroad. I'm sure if they do that, if we do that, more of them will stay. But if we don't, if we can't help them to grow, to meet their aspirations, to meet the roles, a lot of these young ophthalmologists are not really young. They're in their 30s, late 30s and 40s. And there are things they have to do. They get married, they have to have children, they have to rule over their head. We must start thinking of how best can we take care of the interests of those who retain within the profession. If not, we have nothing. And on the psychological other side of it, I remember Professor Lambo telling me one time that currently we really grateful that we have some of you here who are old students who are in position and taking care of us, taking care of our health in different subspecialty. He said, I wonder who are the people that are going to take care of you? It was like a prophecy. And I asked him why. He said, because I don't see them. Most of these guys, either they're not well trained or they're brilliant, but they're not well exposed, they're not given opportunities. And since you can't give what you don't have, these guys are boxed in. And that's what is happening now. So it's a responsibility of a generation that are at the hem of their fears to start thinking of taking care of these younger ones that we invested in so that we don't have to work till age of 80 because there's nobody in the system. That we prepare them, support them in all ramification of their needs, not just complication, not just compensation in terms of salary, but in terms of helping them to understand the philosophy of life and how they can apply themselves such that they can be at par with their counterparts who are living in the country. If we can change that tide, definitely post-COVID, things will improve and we'll be in a better position to compete and survive the onslaught of incoming foreign investors to come and cherry pick most of the things we are doing here. Before an investor investing $10 million in your business, probably would take just about 10-15% of the business. These days, with the devaluation of the Naira, they probably take more than 60% of your business. So having a sort of umbrella view of things generally, we're to look more into the economic and social forces that would drive major changes in our organization post-COVID. We position ourselves to embrace the technical changes that make things faster, communication better, and creating a great network, connecting people globally, which during this COVID, we've been able to, throughout this sort of Zoom or sort of online courses and things like that. We should take advantage of that and let it continue in terms of sharing information, sharing education, creating network, even with Nigerians in diasporas and also other international meetings. We should continue. The recently concluded African Ophthalmology Council virtual conference is a testimony to that. The standard was high. The presentation was great. It shows that we can do a lot of things on our own in Africa. But we must work together. We must be pragmatic. We must unleash that, capacity in those people who have it. We must recognize those who can let the right person do the right job. No more of age, no more that guy is young. No. We must see the quality, the talent in each individual and use it. At the end of the day, we gain from it and it be a win-win situation. We must take advantage of international economic integration. We must understand the global capital flows and how we can tap in it. There's a lot in Africa we can tap in it. And we must understand that we have no control over our own currency as a consumer nation. Therefore, we should always have a backup. Everything we do, we must have a second position, a backup position. So, the maturation of the market in developed countries has held us ransom during this COVID period because of productivity has been down. Even second-hand cars are more expensive now because all the components of the car are manufactured before they can get it. So it's just opening up. So it will take quite a while before we get there to that level whereby the developed world market is saturated and then we can take out of it. But while this is happening, what can we do ourselves locally? Is there anything we can do locally to fill the gap? I think we should be thinking of that. So the globalization of the market and competitions could prove to be more hazardous or more opportunistic. There'll be more competition, as I mentioned. There'll be increased speed in achieving things, but it also creates bigger markets. It reduces barrier. Therefore, it gives us opportunity to look into how we can make more large-scale change in our organization through re-engineering, restructuring, quality control programs, even merger and acquisition. If we see where there's strength, our strength can create synergy. We should not shy away from it. So we should strive for strategic and cultural change and do away with the old system. See the COVID as a stimulus to bring the best out of us and adapt into that structure whereby we bring the best and recognize the talent of individuals and adapt it to our local situation while keeping an eagle eye on international situations. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think we can have an interactive sessions and discuss these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Yes. If we have any contributions, please, you can unmute yourself. You can put up your hand, unmute yourself, and let's join in the discussion. Yeah. There's a lot that has been said this afternoon, a lot to think about, a lot to digest. and we'd like contributions from those who have listened in. So many things have been said. One of the things is that we should not be complacent. We should also raise the urgency level within our institutions because there is a crisis. We should look at our revenues as well. There's poverty of resources, if I can use that term. Many people are moving out, doctors, nurses. What can we do? Staff also should be made to know that resources are not always there. Nothing is ever free. The clinical part of the business will still need to be carried out. That cannot be done from home, even though, yes, there's telemedicine. We should also do an audit of the management section of our organization. We should think of having medical secretaries. We should upskill. We should have a team. We should think out of the box and look into the economic and social forces that will drive changes post-COVID. So do we have any questions?
Dr. Iran, some questions have been posted in the comment box.
Yes, I'm just waiting. Please, you handle that, Yem. Please handle that. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, everybody, again. I'll just pick there've been some comments and feedback from Dr. Chiari here, but I'll focus on the question. We have quite a few questions in that. So the first one, she says, when I was training, it was almost taboo to say one would do private practice for income and profit. How do we change the thinking now? How can we support young ophthalmologists to start their own practice when they qualify? She said she's aware that you did that, Dr. Hassan, but how can we scale up, especially for those not within your group, and still keeping the patient-sensitive focus? So they're quite different questions loaded in that. I'll repeat them. The first one is, in the past, it's been a taboo to say one would do private practice for income and profit. How do we change that thinking now, recognizing that obviously that's the direction that we need to go? Then the second question is, how can we support young ophthalmologists to start their own practice when they qualify? And how do we scale that up, especially for people not within your one's close group? And also, how do you do all of this while maintaining a patient-sensitive focus? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chiari, for those questions. In terms of practicing and also being in teaching hospitals and also do private practice, it's a way of life. We are just our own enemy in this country. I mean, in UK, in US, you do your job in the government sectors, and then your free time you use to do private practice. And even private practice is encouraged within the institution because it generates money. If most of the ophthalmologists in teaching hospital, at least I know in Lagos, Ibadan, they are big private practice, and they teach there. All this thing was dated back to the early 70s, before when the ophthalmology, most of the doctors, consultants were working teaching hospital, were not doing private practice outside, until Gawan came and sacked all of them when they had a crisis. And suddenly their eye opened, and they decided to do private practice. And when there was not enough workforce in the teaching hospital, they have to go after them to come back to the teaching hospital and work. And they kept on with their private practice. I think the government, in my belief, cannot pay physicians or consultants, ophthalmologists, or even any consultant in any discipline. How much do they pay? Those who are even making the policy, we see how much money they are paying themselves. So it's an unwritten law that this must happen. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's for individuals to define how they will use their time and to make sure they're transparent in doing their private practice. I have a very good friend, Dr. Kiari, we know, we all grew together, Dr. Bayeroju. Dr. Bayeroju, she hasn't got any private practice. She doesn't do private practice in Ibadan like other colleagues. But every 3 months, Dr. Bayeroju is out of the country to do a locum job in UK when the holidays. And she makes enough money to keep things going. That's her own start. So the same thing can happen if the ophthalmologists can get it together. Instead of creating small practice, they can come together. They don't want to invest. What takes money out of people is your investment in equipment and maintaining the staffs. A lot of your money goes down the drain. So where do you want to reinvent the wheel? It's a matter for ophthalmologists to believe in themselves, sit down. Okay, let's identify a place. This is the hospital. And therefore, can we sit down and organize that we can see our private patient between this time and this time? All the facilities is there. There's a sharing formula that puts more money in the hand of the ophthalmologist and also increase the quality of service provided. When I was a senior reg in UK, my consultant was not doing implant. He was doing his private practice in a Bowman private hospital. I will go with my consultant. They will anesthetize the patient. I did all the surgery. And it wasn't paying me, but I was happy to do that. But at the end of the year, Christmas time, my house is flooded with gifts for me, for my children, and all these things. So we can do it. It's for us to sit down. I would probably be happy if we have a good hospital in Abuja and people can sit down together and say, okay, we finish work at 5. I want to have a private practice for 2-3 hours between 7 and these. I send my patients. Yeah, the facility is there. We can use it. It's only that we go by the rules. We all agree. This is the rule. This is this, this, this. It puts more money in the pocket of those who are working the government hospital. We also provide general resources for that institution to keep going. And when you are talking of the young ones, they don't even have to start on their own. If we create a good system, they can be absorbed into that. Okay? And form new group practice. If there's any young ophthalmologist who are sound, well-trained, and interested in forming a group practice, if they do contact us at the academy, it's one of the things we like to support them. And not just for them to be on their own. We like to support them, to train them, and let them be part of a good expansion program. That they don't have to go and be looking for money for equipment and all these, going to loan, but they can start earning well. And once you can earn very well, then you can meet your needs. So Dr. Kiari, I would challenge you, if you have these young guys you want to mentor, let's talk about it. And I'm sure through the academy, that's what we establishing the academy for, to help them to give managerial skill and to train them and to help to establish such institution. And we're ready to invest in it. They don't have to bear the name of an institution. If they're going to bear the name of an institution, it's a different rules, but we're ready to support them. And we're ready also to work with ophthalmologists who don't want to put their money in private practice. I mean, on equipments and go to the rigors of running institutions to create a common institution where everybody can practice, and it will be a win-win situation. So I would like to discuss that with you. It's a good idea. We can discuss it at our free time and develop it. And when in Abuja, hopefully we can have a chat over it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. There's another question. Another question from Chidi Onyebuchukwu. As an optometry student, what is the most important skill I should be developing? Is it management or specific tasks?
Right. These days, I advise people to be polyvalent. The fact that you're doing optometry should not exclude you from managerial skill. There are a lot of online courses. There are a lot of HBR, Harvard Business School Review, all that to teach you the fundamentals of how to be an entrepreneur, and you have to create time to do that. And also there are a lot of, even in Nigeria, a lot of courses you can online from business schools, and you can equip yourself on with those knowledge that will guide you through. So by the time you finish, you're not just an optometrist. You know that, okay, this is a business I have to survive. There are many channels through which I can reach my goal, and ask questions. Ask the older optometrist, ophthalmologist, part of the team, and we're able to guide you. So you should develop both simultaneously. Definitely your optometry course should take much of your time, but you must create time for other things that will add value to your life and also to the service you are to provide for mankind. If you have anything, you can get in touch with us at your free time and we can discuss with you.
Thank you, sir. There's another question from Ajayu Biekundayo. I would like to know if you are engaging the diaspora in your plans for fostering eye care in the country.
Well, yes, the diaspora, even pre-COVID, has always been a key part of international collaboration. I mean, we work with the team from US who have been in this country to start training in glaucoma implants. We've had people coming in for phaco emulsification training and things like that. Yes, I think it should be part of our strength. And if Dr. Javi is very interested, he should get in touch with us. We can work together. And even this post-COVID, there's been more need for that. So we can assure you, we work very well with a lot of diasporas, and even those who are not part of the diaspora team who are also ophthalmologists internationally. So we look forward to that sort of collaboration and input that will be of tremendous value, not only to institution, but to other ophthalmologists. Because we usually do this and invite other ophthalmologists for such training, surgical skill transfer in our hospital. And we're already working also on accreditation from the nursing school and the medicals and other institutions for even middle level manpower, so that that institution can provide a teamwork that is robust to ensure that we have a very good collaborative effort both locally and internationally. So we welcome, if you have ideas, we can look at it and we can work together.
Okay, so thanks. There's just a comment from Mr. Salami about the concept of medical secretary, which it says helps to enhance professional effectiveness of consultants and promote superior customer experience. And this comment is from his experience of undergoing treatment in the UK. Thank you, Mr. Salami, for that comment. Dr. Harriman, over to you. I think those have covered most of the questions in the comment box. So if anybody wants to share any comment, please just indicate with your, and you can unmute your mic. I think we've got a few more minutes to do that.
We have a question from Shola Dada, who is based in the UK. Dr. Ajayi Obe is also based in the UK. So Shola Dada here is saying, screening is lacking in eye care delivery in Nigeria due to cost and accessibility. How is this being addressed?
Well, I don't agree with due respect that the screening is lacking in eye care industry in Nigeria. I think screening has been doing well. I think there are more ophthalmologists, more institutions doing local and regional screening. We just had the World Sight Day, and it's amazing the number of ophthalmologists that are out there screening in their different areas. I mean, states through the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria, and also working with the Rotary, with the Lion. In our own institution, I think screening, we have a permanent department for that, which they do outreach almost every week, and even creating vision centers, which are small units in different parts of the country, so that people can walk in without paying anything, and also can organize screening in the mosque, in the churches, and getting sponsors even among some of these people to do the cataract surgery and things like that. So it's really well organized, and I'm sure there's still more to do. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg. So if you have plans, there are a lot of people, diasporas, and a lot of even foreign people who comes to the country, and they'll also collaborate with other institutions to effect screening. I think more of it is desirable, but I think it's scaling up very well.
So, thank you very much, sir. Any other contributions, any questions? No. Our previous lectures can be obtained online. They are on YouTube. So please feel free to go back to them, to listen to them. As I've always said, it's what you can't get in business school that has been delivered, that we've had delivered over the past months. So we look forward to the next lecture, which is the last in the series for this year. And I just want to thank you very much, sir, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience. There's a lot for the future generation to learn. And we hope that we'll be able to mentor them with the older ones. We'll be able to mentor them so that we can have people who will look after our eyes as well in the future. So thank you very much, sir. I want to thank everyone else. Thank you, everyone else, for your time this afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you very much, and have a restful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, too. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.